I spent $5,000 on a personal coaching program, and honestly, I thought I was paying for something hidden, maybe secret manifestation strategies, maybe mindset techniques I didn't know yet, or some way of thinking that could help me get faster results. But what I didn't expect was something very different. I realized that nothing in my life was actually random. My life was already perfectly structured by my own thinking. That was a bit uncomfortable to see because it meant something very simple. My results were not random. They were produced by the way I was thinking and acting every day. That made me curious about something. When people talk about manifestation, what do they actually mean by it? Because what I discovered here was very different from the way manifestation is usually explained. To understand this, it helps to look at life in two layers. There is the part of life we can see, our body, our income, our relationships, our daily circumstances, and then there is the part of life we can't see directly, our thoughts, our beliefs, our internal dialogue, our emotional patterns. Most of the time, when people want to change their life, they try to change the visible part, but the visible part is usually the result of something deeper. Think about your body for a moment. Your body is a system. When your sleep changes, your energy changes. When your habits change, your body changes. Systems respond to inputs. Life works in a very similar way. Your thoughts, emotions, habits, these are inputs. And over time, inputs shape what becomes visible. Your body, income, relationships. Those are not random. They are responses to what has been repeated. So what does that look like in real life then? Sometimes, without realizing, we carry the belief that we need to prove ourselves. Take something simple like an interview. When that belief is active, your body tightens. You start speaking faster. Your answers become rushed. You are not speaking the way you normally would. And afterward, you wonder why you didn't perform the way you know you can. Now compare that to talking with a close friend. You are not trying to prove anything. Your body is relaxed. Your voice is steady. Your thoughts flow naturally, and you are simply being yourself. You might even surprise yourself with ideas that come out effortlessly. Same person, different beliefs, different outcomes. Nothing external changed, only the input did. That is structure. Manifestation is often talked about in a mystical way. But what you may realize here is much more grounded. It's simply cause and effect. The invisible becomes visible. Your thoughts shape your identity shapes your actions, and the results are the outcome of repeated actions. That's it. Throughout history, different thinkers have described this principle in countless ways. Early thinkers like Thomas Howard explored how thought precedes form. Later, Napoleon Hill translated into achievement psychology, and Ernest Holmes framed it as mental law. But what most people don't fully see is how this plays out in our daily life. Let's make it simple. If you repeatedly think, I am not good enough, even when an opportunity appears right in front of you, the system you've been operating within will quietly generate reasons to step back. You hesitate, and you tell yourself you need more time. You're over-preparing, you wait, and eventually you miss the opportunity. From the outside, it looks like the timing wasn't right, but internally it was a pattern within this system you are operating. And here is the part most people overlook. When people say manifestation, they usually mean something positive, something miraculous, something they want. But manifestation is neutral. The system doesn't only produce what you desire, it produces what it is structured to produce. When you recognize that something will shift, then it becomes obvious that the missed opportunity doesn't look random anymore. the wrong timing doesn't feel accidental. You begin to see how the system produced that outcome. That's when manifestation stops feeling mystical and starts feeling structural. And luckily, structure can be redesigned. That's the real lesson. That's what I actually paid $5,000 to understand how to live this daily. From that experience, I built something practical that I now use in daily life. It's simple, it's repeatable, and over time, it slowly changes how your internal system operates. I call it the inner architecture system. It's built on 6 simple pillars that I try to practice in daily life. The first one is clarity. What do you actually want to experience in your physical life? Not something vague, like, I want success. Something specific. For example, instead of saying, I want a better job, you might say, I want a role where I earn X amount of money, can log off at Y p.m. and work on things I genuinely value. Architecture is built from blueprints, not vague wishes. Ask yourself, if someone observed your life for a week, would they know what you are trying to build? The second pillar is understanding where you are right now. If you want financial growth, look at your bank summary. Most apps already show weekly and monthly patterns. Check where your money goes. If you want better health, check 1 week of sleep, food, and movement. Not forever, just 1 week. If you want stronger relationships, notice how often you initiate connection. What energy do you leave behind after a conversation? If you had to score it out of 10, what score would it be? This isn't about judging yourself. It's simply about seeing things clearly, because you can't redesign what you refuse to measure. When I did this, I realized something uncomfortable. The results I didn't like were consistent with the patterns I was repeating. I wasn't unlucky, I was structured. This might be uncomfortable to hear, but if your life functions like a system, then your struggles are part of that system too. And if something is part of a system, it can also be redesigned. Taking responsibility is not blame, it's power. Because anything built through patterns can be rebuilt through new ones. The third pillar goes a little deeper. It's about the beliefs behind those patterns. In other words, understanding why you are where you are. What sentence runs in your mind when you hesitate? I'm not ready yet. I need more time. What if I fail? At the moment, those thoughts feel completely logical. They feel like the truth, but very often they are just patterns you repeated for a long time. Some people constantly beat themselves up. They replay mistakes, they magnify flaws, they criticize everything they do. But if you pause and really examine it, it's not always logical. Self-criticism rarely improves performance. Most of the time, it's the mind trying to regain control. It creates a story. If I criticize myself first, I won't be surprised by criticism from others. But in reality, it drains energy, it shrinks your confidence, and it reinforces the identity of not enough. And identity shapes behavior. But when you start seeing these patterns clearly, they begin to lose their power because awareness interrupts the automation pattern. The fourth pillar is learning to manage your thoughts. And this is not about forcing yourself to be positive. It's about having a simple system. At the end of the day, notice one limiting thought that came up during the day and just write it down. Then take a moment to question it. For example, if the thought is I am behind, you can replace it with something more constructive, like I am building this step by step. Repetition wears identity because your brain believes what it hears repeatedly. So choose what you repeat to yourself more deliberately. Thoughts shape identity. but identity is reinforced by what we repeatedly do, which leads to the fifth pillar, aligning your time. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, and your calendar quietly reveals what you actually prioritize. If you say you want growth, but most of your time is spent avoiding discomfort, then the architecture doesn't match the blueprint. And the key thing to understand is this: alignment doesn't require intensity, it requires consistency. 30 minutes of learning, 30 minutes of building. Small actions repeated daily compound over time. Motivation can inspire you in the beginning, but repetition is what actually builds identity. The sixth pillar is rewarding your nervous system. This is one of the most important parts, but it's often overlooked. Many people set goals at the beginning of the year, but a few months later they stop. And it is not always because they lack discipline. Often the system simply isn't designed to support growth. Growth can feel unfamiliar to the nervous system. Every time you step into something uncomfortable, such as speaking up, trying something new, taking a risk, your system feels a bit of tension. If that tension is never acknowledged, the system slowly pulls you back to what you feel familiar. That's why it helps to consciously reward those moments. After sending a difficult email, pause. After speaking up, pause. Acknowledge it. And here's something interesting. We rarely say to ourselves, "You did a good job. Well done." We criticize ourselves. We focus on what went wrong. We immediately push for more, but we rarely acknowledge progress. If you are not doing this yet, try starting now. After something small, something uncomfortable, or something you handled well, pause and simply say, "You did well." This is not weakness, it's nervous system training. Small acknowledgements repeated constantly compound over time because you can't plant self-criticism every day and expect confidence to grow. Confidence is not built through intensity, it's built through consistent reinforcement. And this may be one of the most underestimated leverage points in your life. When I started seeing these patterns more clearly, something changed for me. I stopped waiting for things in my life to somehow change on their own, and I started paying attention to the internal structure that was producing those results. Most of the time, we focus on changing outcomes, but outcomes are usually just the visible part of a system. When the inputs begin to change, the results slowly change as well. And that's why I no longer see manifestation as something mystical. To me, it's simply understanding how the system works. The thoughts you repeat, the beliefs you carry, the actions you take every day. Over time, those inputs shape the results you experience in your life. And when those inputs change, the outcomes naturally follow. That's the main lesson I took from that $5,000 program. Not a secret technique, just a clearer way of seeing how things actually work. If this perspective resonates with you, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next reflection.